Hello, interprofessional learners. This is Dr. John Emil Kenny, and I'm here to give you an exceptionally brief overview of interprofessional learning and interprofessional education. I'm going to give you a bit of a recipe because I think there's a bit of a cooking analogy that can go along here. So we'll start with the basics. What is interprofessional learning? Well, this is when two or more professions learn with, from, and about one another to improve collaboration and quality of care. And this is the CAPE definition, and I lifted this from a review or a meta-analysis by Hammack et al. In 2007, and that references will all be at the end of this presentation. This is different from multi-professional learning, where more than one professions kind of come together to learn about something in tandem. Interprofessional learning implies there's a necessary collaborative component to the interprofessional curriculum that is occurring. So why is this important? Well, and this is the Hammack reference I referred to in the last slide. If the different professions come together to learn, then they'll work better together, and then this should result in improved efficiency and improved patient care. We're now in the days where it's impossible for one profession to completely manage a single patient by itself. Every bit of patient care requires multiple professions together in the intensive care units, respiratory therapists and nurses and nursing assistants and pharmacists and physicians on the general medical floor, it's social workers, nurses, nursing assistants. It's the whole lot, and we all need to learn to work together to improve patient care. So in order to facilitate interprofessional learning, there should be some sort of theoretical underpinning to our approach. And that's what I'm going to briefly describe here. And this is where the cooking analogy comes in, where it's a bit like you need the ingredients, the separate entities coming together that you need to then kind of put together into a pot and stir it all up. And at the end, you'll ideally have some sort of tasty stew that is the result of the interprofessional education and learning. And so a way to approach this is this 3P model that was initially proposed by Biggs about 25 years ago and referenced in the Hammack article that I've already mentioned. So what are the 3Ps then? Well, the first is presage. So these are the ingredients. This is the parsley, the sage, the rosemary, the thyme, the celery. It's coming together. So in terms of interprofessional learning and interprofessional education, there's I'm sorry for the typo, that should be the learner characteristics. That is the underlying attitudes, knowledge, skills, motivations, everything that the learner brings to the table. There's the teacher or the facilitator characteristics, and every facilitator, every teacher will have their own conception of learning, their expertise, their enthusiasm or realness, as Carl Rogers referred to it in the 1960s. And then there's actually the context, and this is a very broad topic and includes everything from the funding of the interprofessional curriculum, the physical space, the physical proximity, for example, if you're doing it online, administrative support. The second of the 3Ps is the process. And this is the more of the theory, but it's the mechanisms by which the different professions interact to learn from, with, and about each other. And there's a nice theoretical review by Barr in 2013 that I will list at the end. And I will briefly go over the model proposed by London and Sessa to describe the process by which multiple professions and groups interact. And then there's the product. You need some sort of end result. And the modified Kirkpatrick model provides a nice format here. So this is the model by London and Sessa. It's a bit complex, it's a bit busy, but this can be parsed into the 3Ps. This first portion here is the presage. In this area, the control mechanisms and the facilitations, these are external kind of processes that the facilitators and the leaders of the group will impose upon the group as it interacts, and that meshes with the triggers for learning for the group readiness. Are they ready to learn? Are they open to learn? Are they closed off and not willing? And then the group stage, for which Susan Whelan has published a great deal on. And so as the group begins to interact in response to learning triggers, they undergo this process by which they engage in adaptive, generative, and transformative learning patterns. And the basis of these is essentially adaptive, as the group is just rapidly responding to the triggers. Generative patterns occur when the group needs to generate new information and new approaches as they interact, and transformative is essentially the group completely reinvents themselves. And the way that these interactive patterns themselves interact with the triggers and the group the group readiness, these interaction patterns can become functional or dysfunctional. And if they're functional, it enhances, by this arrow down here, it enhances the coordination of the members' tools and tasks. If the interaction patterns become dysfunctional, then it inhibits this. And then finally, there's the product. And generically, it's that the group is able to complete its work, fulfill member needs, and maintain group well-being. This is a very rapid overview of the model proposed by London and Sessa, so I urge you to check out that paper if you're keen on learning. A little bit more about the product. This was mentioned in the Hammock paper. They use a modified Kirkpatrick model to quantify or qualitatively appraise the outcomes of interprofessional learning and education interventions. And basically, these are the 6 groups. You can measure the participants' reactions, their changes in attitudes, their changes in knowledge and skills, their behavioral changes, and then ultimately 4A and 4B is the change in service delivery and patient care. Now you can imagine that the first probably 3, maybe 4 up until behavior are relatively easy to obtain after an intervention. It's more or less survey-based, maybe some observation-based, but they are easier than actually measuring changes in service delivery and patient care in response to an interprofessional intervention. And what they found in their review of the literature is there's the most data that interprofessional education curriculum can enhance reactions. Interestingly, changes in attitudes was kind of a wash. There were some trials that showed that attitudes changed, some showed that it didn't. And then there was relatively few studies that showed that there was an improvement in service delivery and patient care, but ultimately the few trials that did, they were positive. So that's it. That's my very brief overview. These are the references that I absolutely urge you to check out because I went over a vast swath of material in a very rapid period of time. For further information, check out the Biggs article, but I highly recommend the Hammock article here and also the London and Sessa paper. Thanks.